and play
Let's
games
get
with
into this.
people's lives.
Have performed several burials because the Islamic are controlling the government. Let me tell you, there's a genocide in Nigeria.
Genocide, not genocide,
Nicki Minaj will
but
address the United Nations later
genocide.
today alongside US Ambassador Mike Waltz. The Queen of Rap is not often seen at the UN. She's speaking out because, like so many people at the moment, she's extremely alarmed about what is happening in Nigeria. It's the most populous country in Africa and one of its wealthiest, but it's fair to say it hasn't traditionally been a big subject for Western media
230
or the US
million.
podcast circuit until recently. Just over a month ago, HBO's Bill Maher said this.
If you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck. You are in a bubble. Not, and again, I'm not a Christian, but they are systematically killing the Christians in Nigeria. They've killed over 100,000 since 2009. They've burned 18,000 churches. This is so much more. These are their Islamists, Boko Haram. This is so much more of a genocide attempt than what is going on in Gaza. They are literally attempting to wipe out.
You can't, we're not going to compare who is worse, Gaza or Nigerians. People are dying, end of story. We don't need to throw in every single conflict that's ever happened on planet Earth and compare it and say, yeah, these two are, no, you can't compare.
The Christian population of an entire country. Where are the kids protesting this?
Thank you.
Many prominent figures are now raising the issue. Senator Ted Cruz wrote since 2009, over 50,000 Christians in Nigeria have been massacred. It's a result of decisions made by specific people in specific places at specific times. The United States knows who those people are. A series of stories have followed on major US networks, including Fox, whose interviews on the subject were said to have angered President Trump. The US leader is now threatening Nigeria with, in his words,
threatening Nigeria. These words that they're using is not going to help Nigerians at all.
Military action, choosing not to rule out both airstrikes and boots on the ground. He's also threatened
not to rule out airstrikes to Nigeria because of the conflict. So what Donald Trump's saying is that if we don't fix up, they're going to start bombing and putting ground troops on the lands of Nigeria, which is not to say that's not what we want. I'm for Americans coming to Nigeria, boots on the ground, saying what the hell is going on here, and getting out the Boko Haram, the extremists. I am for Donald Trump sending Americans in to get rid of the extremist Christians and the extremist Muslims.
To withhold more than $1 billion in US aid. Just this weekend, government abducted 25 girls from a high school in Nigeria. Boko Haram is being blamed. Understandably, I wanted to find out more about all of this. I expected the Nigerian government to be addressing the situation with urgency and invited the Nigerian Foreign Minister, Yusuf Tuggar, to appear on the show. There was a bit of a bad line, but I'm sure that you and many in the White House will find what followed pretty extraordinary. Well, joining me now is the Nigerian Foreign Minister, Ambassador Yusuf Tuggar. Welcome to you, Foreign Minister. I appreciate you joining Uncensored.
Thank you for having me, Piers.
So, a simple question. If
the thing I like to do is I like to read their faces when they're talking to find out if what they're saying is actually true or not. I have a very good ability of doing that. Watch how I do it.
Somewhere between 50 and 100,000 Christians have been murdered in Nigeria since 2009, depending on which bit of data you want to take up. And 18,000 Christians.
The face you done there.
Data you want to take up.
You know, his face is like, what data do I want to use? Do I want to use the American data? Do I want to use what's going on the ground in Nigeria? Because this guy here should know the numbers of churches that are burned. He should know the numbers of people that are killed. He should know what part was attacked to differentiate if those people were Christians or if those people were Muslims. He should 100% have these facts. So he's doing a face like that, thinking, what what organization am I going to use to give this guy the stats? Because there's Americans that have their own stats, and they have the Nigerians that have their own stats.
And 18,000 Christian churches have been destroyed. Why isn't it, as some people are claiming, a genocide against Christians in Nigeria?
Well, to begin with, those figures are completely and totally
Okay,
inaccurate and false.
okay,
And many in the media have examined them, they fact-checked them. So they come from Inter-Society and Open Doors, and they've been shown to be totally inaccurate.
okay. They're inaccurate.
What we have in Nigeria is a multi-ethnic, multi-tribal, multi-religious country of 230 million
Come
people.
on.
Our nation building project is not an easy one.
Okay.
We have suffered from the effects of things that we have no control over, exogenous factors such as the breaking up of the Libyan state, the killing of Gaddafi, the proliferation of
Bro, we're saying, explain to us why you wouldn't call it a genocide. And this is his response.
weapons and fighters that have cascaded down to the northern fringes of Nigeria and beyond, and have affected the entire region. The failure of the EU Sahel strategy over the years, these are all things that we are suffering the effects of. And we do have Boko Haram in the Lake Chad region that affects not just Nigeria, but 3 other countries, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, that we've been contending with through the multinational joint task force that allows the troops of the countries in the region to pursue the terrorists. 50,000 insurgents and people that were caught in the region of the insurgency having surrendered, and we were in the course of processing them, and some were being rehabilitated,
I'm just
others
thinking,
were
what the hell
being
is this guy
processed
talking about? He's meant to be
through the
talking
legal
about
system.
he's meant to be talking about why you think it's not a genocide, or do you think it is a genocide? And he's gone on a whole rant and on everything else but the simple question. And I can feel this guy's going to do that a lot. And this is one of the representations of Nigeria. So when you want to talk to Nigeria, you talk to this guy, and he'll give you the information you need on Nigeria. He's doing a terrible job.
Niger had to pull out because of the failure of the EU Sahel strategy and the military coup that was experienced in Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali.
You just answered the question.
Look, you've made it clear that you believe these numbers are wildly
Mm-hmm.
exaggerated. The International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law is a non-governmental organization that monitors and tracks human rights abuses across Nigeria. In its report in August, it said jihadist groups, including Boko Haram and ISIS in Nigeria, had killed over 100,000 Christians in the last 16 years. It also noted that 60,000 moderate Muslims have been killed in that period too. Now, I guess my obvious question to you is, if it's not 100,000, then how many Christians have been murdered since 2009? And if it's not
2009, 16 years, how many people has been killed? The reports are saying it's 100,000. What's your response?
18,000 Christian churches that have been destroyed, how many is it?
How many is it? Simple question. Let's keep things simple. Just give me a ballpark. They're saying it's 100,000. What do you think the numbers are?
We in Nigeria have Christians, we have Muslims, we have atheists, we have animists, and when we're counting death tolls, we don't necessarily go by religion, and quite often it's difficult to even identify what religion an individual that has just lost their lives belongs to. And what we are concerned about is
So I
that
can understand that he's basically saying we can't identify if someone that just died is a Christian or a Muslim. I can agree with that. You can't tell because some people are wishy-washy. One minute they're Christians, one minute they're Muslims, one minute they're Muslims, one minute they're Christians. So it's hard to say which, like the person that just died, are they Christians or are they Muslims? I get that. Okay, cool.
Are Nigerians first and
Good
foremost.
answer.
And we've seen these sort of agitations by faith-based organizations that is a prelude to the breaking up, to the dismemberment of countries. We've seen it in Sudan. We know this playbook. It's happened. There were agitations to create South Sudan, which was expected to be a predominantly Christian country, separate from North Sudan, which is meant to be a Muslim country. Now we have a situation where there's fighting, continuous fighting in South Sudan. There's another round about to kick off. The same thing in the north.
Remember, the question was the 100,000. What is your opinion? How many people do you think has died? He has these numbers. Where is he going with this question? Talking about Sudan. It's a simple question. How many people would you say have died? Reports are saying it's 100,000. He's going somewhere else.
North Sudan,
Okay,
where
but let me
the
interrupt.
supposed Muslim fighting each other. So we don't want to be the next Sudan. We will not allow ourselves to be the next Sudan.
No, I understand
Where are the faith-based groups that were agitating for Sudan to be dismembered? They're no longer there to fix Sudan.
Okay.
Not North, not South.
Okay.
It's Nigeria as a member of the Peace Council of the African
Let me jump in if I may.
With the heavy lifting.
Foreign Minister, if I may, I'd like to jump in if I may, because you do seem to be avoiding my questions. You know, you don't seem to know how many Christians have been murdered, which I find surprising.
I'm not.
Well, you haven't given me any. You've told me you don't know. Well, well, just to, with respect, sir, you have not given.
Nigerians, so
no,
many
you have.
That
I know what you said.
May not necessarily
I understand.
Same as those that.
But you are yes. But what you're saying, if you could let me speak, what you're saying is that you dispute the numbers of Christians that have been reported to have been killed, but you have no idea how many Christians have been killed. What we surely can agree on is how many Christian churches have been destroyed. Do you know how many?
Read his face.
Yes, I do.
Have been destroyed. Do you know how many?
Yes, I do. Since 2009.
Okay.
Since the last.
So he's just reading numbers now. He should know this. Like, yo, I'm getting interviewed. We're talking about the conflict in Nigeria right now. They're talking about 100,000 people died. They're talking about 18,000 churches been burned down. He should know these things. If you don't know this, then what do you know?
Attacks, not destroyed.
So you have a complete building. All the glasses are broken in, the doors smashed in. He's now being super, super specific and stupid and annoying by saying we're going to be a little bit more specific on attacks. You don't need to do that. If someone's house has been destroyed by so-called Muslims or Christians destroying the churches, then get these numbers straightforward.
Attacks on churches, 102. So we're not hiding any figures.
So you just said we're not hiding any figures, and there was 102 churches that's been destroyed, not 18,000. So what I would simply say to them is that, people are saying it's been 18,000 churches, but you, being the main man of Nigeria that know these stats, you're saying to the people that it's only 102 churches that has been completely destroyed. Okay.
You see, it's important to understand this. Same way that there are mosques that are destroyed. I don't even have to mention that. Nigeria
that alone gives me that he's a Muslim. Nothing wrong with whether he's a Muslim or not. But if you're a Muslim, you're obviously going to lean towards one side. He's talking about 18,000 churches, and he says, let me bring up the Muslims, mosques as well. Fair enough, you can do that, but it just shows where we're talking about churches, and you brought up mosques. Okay.
Figured in such a way that you have Muslim and Christian populations all across the country. There are, of course, states out of the 36 states that we have that have a high concentration of Christians, the same way that there are states where you have a high concentration of Muslims. Take, for example, the more recent attacks that have brought about an intensifying of this false narrative that there's some persecution, or as the likes of Bill Maher even go as far as to say, a genocide. The ground
well,
zero
it's actually
for that
more than
would
Bill
be
Maher.
Benue State.
If I may jump in again. If I may play you.
Of Benue State, there's some persecution, or as the likes of Bill Maher even go as far as to say, a genocide.
Genocide. For him to do that, you guys can do your own assumptions of him saying, "Oh, it's a genocide." Not needed to do that, my friend. You did not need to do that. You sound biased, like you're leaning towards one side when you say churches with your hands down and then genocide like this. It doesn't look good, my friend.
The ground
well,
zero
it's actually
for that
more than
would
Bill
be
Maher.
Benue State.
If I may jump in again. If I may play you.
Of Benue State, see how it is impossible for him to be concealing what is happening. He would be screaming at the top of his voice if indeed there was some genocide, or if there was some specific calculated targeting of Muslims, of Christians. But he knows there isn't.
I will put a small description of what this guy's role is in Nigeria.
Is why
let me play you.
He is not doing so.
But let me play you a clip from President Donald Trump about this.
If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians,
when you're listening to this, just imagine someone sticking it on you and telling you, "Yo, if you don't fix up, we're gonna do you in." Like when he's talking to you, like when we're watching it, just imagine someone just sticking it on you.
But let me play you a clip from President Donald Trump about this.
If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about, and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns are blazing, to completely...
Now disgraced country. I like Donald Trump. But to say, yeah, your country is disgusting and we're going to stop aid to your country is disgusting. We're going to stop aid. America's not disgusting. No, it's not. Just Nigeria is disgusting. Okay.
Wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible...
We are, Department of War. Imagine being, I am a Nigerian, just saying, yeah, Donald Trump said that because we're fucking around, he just contacted his Department of War.
Action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like... going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about, and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns are blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible...
Islamic terrorist, well said. Because, we all were smart enough to know what an extremist, a Christian extremist is like. Yo, you must be Christian. You must believe that Jesus was the Son of God. That's an extremist. And you have the Islamic extremist. And Donald Trump just stated that we're going to go for the Islamic extremist. Okay, fair enough.
Horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. These are cherished people. These are great people. Leave them alone. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast before it's too late. If they don't, there's going to be hell to pay.
So what is your message to President Trump, who obviously completely disagrees with you?
My message is that we have the utmost respect for the United States of America. We have, by extension, the utmost respect for its president, President Trump. It's unfortunate that President Trump has been
You know,
misinformed
he's been
by those that
misinformed, but Minister, do you get your data from America? So there's a group called ACLD, I'm going to put it up, and they're the ones that reported the deaths on Nigerians, the 100,000 deaths and the 18,000 churches. He gets his information from America. So he's saying that he's misinformed. Okay, if he's misinformed, where are you getting your data from? And you're getting your data from the ground, being Nigeria, which is your job. And instead of 18,000 churches, you're stating that it's only 102. Whether me saying only or not, it doesn't make a difference. One church being destroyed is as bad as 100,000 churches being destroyed. He's saying that Donald Trump got his information wrong, but where did he get his information from?
um, um, trade in generalized labelings, and unfortunately, it has resulted in this statement. We urge that the engagement that is ongoing continues so that we will provide more information and clarity. We are not the ground for either a jihad nor a crusade. Nigerians have lived in peace, relative peace with each other for a very, very long period of time. We are the people that populate the
You know what you
confluence
just
of
said,
the
I'm
river.
gonna go back, and the reason why I posted it is because I'm gonna once again state that I'm going to be saying to you guys what this guy's job is in Nigeria. So I want to go back and just hear again what he said. So
Peace,
peace.
relative peace with each other for a very, very long period of time. We are the people that populate the confluence of the rivers Niger and Benue, and we will continue to do so. And it's important to be mindful of the complexity of the Nigerian state. It is a multi-diverse state in so many regards, and it is an ally of the US because we've worked successfully together in the past. And we actually appreciate what President Trump has done in the past when other subsequent US administrations would not sell Tucano jet fighters to us, planes, aircraft to us. President Trump acquiesced to that. Some of the things that we're experiencing at the moment have a direct
Okay.
linkage to the application of the Leahy Law to countries like Nigeria, where they were deprived of weapons to maintain peace at home and help also maintain peace in the region. This is why we continue to experience
Mm-hmm.
terrorism in the region, in the Sahel region. Whereas in the past, when we worked successfully together with the US, you could see what Nigeria was able to achieve. We resettled Sierra Leone, we
We are
resettled
talking
Liberia
about
successfully,
Nigeria. Please stop talking about other countries.
and our multinational
Okay,
joint task force
Minister, I'm
was
interrupting
very
you.
effective in the fight against terrorism. Until
Minister, just stay there for a moment, if you will, because joining me now is the former Canadian MP Goldie Gamari, host of the Goldie Show, who has spoken out frequently at what she says is a genocide against Christians in Nigeria. Goldie Gamari, welcome to Uncensored.
Content. This woman has no right to be talking about what's going on in Nigeria, but let's hear what she's going to say.
Your response to the foreign minister of Nigeria, who says there is no genocide. The numbers of those who've been killed, number of churches attacked, has been wildly exaggerated.
Well, first of all, Pierce, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, Pierce, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it probably is a duck. There is a reason that we're seeing these Islamic militants going around and yelling Allahu Akbar. That's not by coincidence. There's a
Allahu
reason that they are
Akbar means
attacking.
praise to God. Okay, so, you know, I have a lot of Muslim friends, you know, praise to God. There's nothing wrong with saying praise to God. Like, they're killing people, okay, they're killing people, but because they're saying praise to God, Allahu Akbar, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Christians on Christmas Eve. Let's not forget that back in 2014, almost 300 Christian schoolgirls were kidnapped by these Islamic militants. 80 of them, their whereabouts are still unknown. Here's what's happening in Nigeria is jihad. It's the exact same thing that happened on October 7 by Islamists when they broke into Israel and murdered Jews yelling Allahu Akbar. It's the exact same thing that ISIS terrorists did to the Yazidis in Iraq. It's the exact same thing that happened in Lebanon. Here's the only difference between what's happening today in Nigeria versus what happened 1,400 years ago when the Muslim Arab invaders came to Persia is that back then people did not have cameras, but today they do. It is 100% jihad. We've seen it before. This is how the Islamist playbook always happens.
You know, with the jihad stuff, right? Shit, one sec. Let me take off these captions. You know, once again, it goes to extremists. Yes, Nigerian is, I would say Nigeria is 60% Muslims and 40% Christians. You know, the animal stuff, like, we're not even going to add those into it at all.
Well,
so that was the point I was making with the jihads, is that jihads, they're going to end up being extremists. But you need to understand, with 230 million people in Nigeria, let's just say 100 million of them are Muslims, which is, you know, just over 50%. But let's just say 100 million Nigerians are Muslims. What percent of those are jihadist extremists? I would say 1%, 2%. Come on.
That bad things have been happening. He's just denying that it constitutes a genocide, and that the numbers of reported
because his
deaths
government
of
is a part of it.
Of murders of Christians.
I think his government.
I think I wasn't very nice to her, but you know what she just said is that the Nigerian government are for it. The president is a Muslim. The vice president of Nigeria is a Muslim, and I wouldn't be too surprised if this man in front of me, this Nigerian foreign minister, is a Muslim. So you're gonna be biased, and you're gonna want the Islams or Muslims to win and get Nigeria to be a completely Christian country, which, in my opinion, I don't think will ever happen. I don't think Nigeria would ever be 100% a Muslim country, but this is why Donald Trump is trying to fight against that, to make Nigeria a 100% Christian country, because if Nigeria becomes a Christian country, then there won't be no surprise that they could end up going into Ghana and going into other countries. I completely understand
that. Right now you have an Islamist government in Nigeria. One of the things that he didn't mention to you.
They're Muslims. That doesn't mean they're necessarily Islamist. Another word for Islamist is extremist. So basically what she's saying is that the Nigerian government are extremist, which I wouldn't necessarily say that's the case. But they are letting extremists do too much. So whereas our president Tinubu is a Muslim, and he obviously believes in Muslim ways, he's not gonna put more Nigerian troops on the other side to fight against the Muslims, which he is a Muslim.
Is that typically it's been a constitutional convention in Nigeria that if the prime minister is Muslim, then if the president is Muslim, then the vice president.
So there was a rule in Nigeria that if the president of Nigeria is Christian, then the vice president must be Muslim, and that's vice versa. If the president of Nigeria is a Muslim, they have to allocate a Christian man to be the vice president. So what's happened now is that the president is a Muslim and the vice president is also a Muslim, which is something that was not meant to happen, is basically what she's saying. And it has happened, but it shouldn't have happened.
Is Christian, then the vice president is Muslim. This is intended to have a proper representation of the Nigerian population. Right now, you have a Muslim president, and then they decided to choose a Muslim vice president, and so there is actually no Christian representation in the Islamist government. By the way, this is a government that is working closely behind the scenes with the Islamic Republic of Iran. You should ask the foreign minister why Nigerian school children are holding pictures of the Ayatollah, who is a brutal dictator and is murdering my people in Iran. People need to look into the linkages between the current Nigerian government and the Islamic Republic of Iran. I was a politician for 7 years, Pierce, and I can tell when someone is lying and avoiding the truth. That's exactly what this foreign minister is doing, and shame on him for lying.
Foreign Minister, your response to that?
With all due respect to the lady, I'm sorry, I forget her name. She has already exposed her ignorance and lack of knowledge about Nigeria.
He just said that she ignored the ignorance of Nigeria, but you didn't actually say anything in regards to any of the numbers that were thrown out.
To sit thousands of miles away and play games with people's lives. These are real lives.
I'm not the one playing games with people's lives. 7,000 Christians have been murdered in Nigeria. 7,000 Christians have been murdered in Nigeria. Who's playing games with people's lives?
Does not even know whether Nigeria has a president or a prime minister. You can see how she's waffling, she's stumbling. But this is
typical of being a super intelligent man. Okay, you just made a minor mistake by saying president and prime minister. I wouldn't bite that bait. Like, I'll just state the facts. But he was being very, very petty. I am a petty person, but he's been very, very petty by stating the mistake she made by president and prime minister.
I think you're showing your own ignorance. The fact that you're not able to actually counter what I'm saying, and instead you're going after these things that are irrelevant.
So if I'm debating someone, I'll just keep quiet, wait for them to finish, and I'll ask them, "Are you done?" And I would state the facts. I wouldn't be out here just arguing and just trying to get in a word. I'll just keep quiet until you're done and state the facts.
Saber rattling. Trade in saber rattling. It is typical. You can see she's exposing herself. She doesn't even know the country that she's trying to start a crusade on, and drawing comparisons with Gaza. You know, it's clear what she's trying to do. We have a constitution that has, go and read my constitution before you even try to have a discussion with me. Look up sections 10, 38 and 42 of our constitution. There is federal character enshrined in our constitution. It's part and parcel of it. And the priority is the region where you come from, because we don't identify ourselves as Muslims and Christians in Nigeria. We identify ourselves from regions, geopolitical regions.
I've lived in Nigeria over 10 years, and yes, we do. Are you Nigerian? Not are you Nigerian. Are you Muslim or are you Christian? That's a common question in Nigeria. So that was a lie. He just said now that we don't identify ourselves as Christians or Muslims, when that's a lie. We do.
But do you accept? All right, Foreign Minister. Foreign Minister, let me jump in. Let me jump in. Foreign Minister.
All right.
Foreign Minister, if I may, you won't commit to how many Christians have been killed. I think you're slightly hiding behind the fact you don't know what all their religion was. But you must know how many people have been killed.
I can give you figures.
You know, you did ask me. You know, come on, this is Nigeria for you. So you guys need to see this and take in your own views on this. He's saying that you didn't ask me. If you asked me, maybe I'd have told you. Well, if you care about the country, why didn't you just say? Why didn't you just say, Piers, you're not asking the right questions. I will say the right questions.
I can give you figures of those that lost their lives when...
How many Christians have been murdered in Nigeria since 2009?
Since over the last 5 years, I can categorically tell you that 177 have been killed. And it does not mean that the killing...
But you said to me... You said to me earlier... You said to me earlier you did. Yeah, but hang on. Foreign Minister, with respect.
Muslims. They are not necessarily Muslims.
Foreign Minister.
To understand that.
Wait, 1 second. Did you say only?
With respect.
Categorically tell you that 177 have been killed. And it does not mean that the killing...
But you said to me...
I thought he said only.
But you said to me
earlier... All right, let's go.
You said to
the churches that were attacked. Yes, so I am telling you, number killed when churches were attacked. I told you the number of the churches that were attacked.
Now, how many Christians? You
5
misunderstood my
years,
question.
102.
How many?
Number
I want to
killed,
know. I want to know.
177.
Yes, but Foreign Minister, you have had United States senators like Ted Cruz saying publicly that at least 50,000 Christians have been murdered since 2009. If you're saying that number is wildly exaggerated, what is the number?
Simple question.
I keep giving you the numbers, but clearly, you are not.
You're not. You're giving me the numbers since in the last 5 years.
Accept the numbers or to even listen to what I'm saying. 102, 177, number injured 98, number abducted 7.
Numbers
Okay?
adopted
So we are not
since
hiding.
2009, but he only said 5 years. Come on, bro. You're talking shit. As I said to you lot, like I done my little bit of research on this guy, and I'm gonna tell you what his job role is. And cut a long story short, his job role is to make Nigeria look as good as possible.
Any facts. But as I said, we don't go about trying to identify a Nigerian's faith when they've lost their lives. That is
but
not,
do you
that
condemn?
Is not what Nigeria
do you condemn? Foreign Minister, do you condemn the attacks and the murder on Christians by Islamist groups in Nigeria?
Do you condemn? Obviously, you condemn anyone dying. That's an easy question. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. I lost my father-in-law to an attack by an Islamic terrorist group, Boko Haram. So I myself am a victim. I've lost family members to attacks. And they were Muslims. But it doesn't matter whether they're Muslim or Christian, because their aim is to kill, to maim, so that they would achieve their objectives. And the number one enemy of Boko Haram is not a Christian. It is a Muslim who does not subscribe to their own brand of Islam.
Okay, I mean, Goldie Gamari, let me bring you back in there. I mean, there's no doubt that tens of thousands of moderate Muslims have also been murdered by Islamists. We can argue, till the cows come home, frankly, about what the exact numbers are. But clearly, a lot of Christian churches have been attacked. So have a lot of mosques, where it is believed that the people who are, observing their faith there are too moderate for the Islamists. So it seems like the Islamist groups like Boko Haram, like ISIS, are targeting pretty much anybody that they don't agree with, be that moderate Muslims or Christians. Is this not, as the Foreign Minister is putting forward, a case of it's not just Christians being targeted and persecuted, it's also moderate Muslims, and that there's a
I want to hear how the
problem.
Foreign Minister, how his view is when he's talking about the Christians of Nigeria and how he's talking against the Muslims in Nigeria. So Piers is asking the questions on, okay, we've talked about the Christians, let's talk about the Muslims now. I want to see how the Foreign Minister, how he talks, how his attitude is when he's talking about the Muslims that are also going through people dying and killings and mosques being blown up. Let's see how he reacts.
With Islamist terrorism.
Well, there is definitely a problem with Islamist terrorism, but just because Muslims are being murdered, it does not negate the fact that there is a targeted ethnic cleansing of Christian Nigerians.
Ethnic cleansing, they threw that word out with obviously Palestine, Gaza, and they're going to run with it. Ethnic cleansing. I'll ask her, what do you understand by ethnic cleansing in Nigeria? And she'd say to me that what I can see is that the Muslims are attacking the Christians, and you think they're going to wipe out the whole, 100, what's that? Let's say, how many Christians are in Nigeria? Let's just say there's 100 million Muslims, 230 million Nigerians in all. So let's just say 50 million Christians. You really think that eventually they're going to wipe out 50 million Christians as a so-called genocide and cleansing? You're exaggerating extremely.
The other. what we can conclude from this is that there is definitely an Islamist problem. Now, one thing that the Nigerian minister is
There's obviously, I was going to say, name me a few countries that don't have Islamic problems, extremists. I always like to say that most countries are going through that right now, all around the world. That's just a very cliche thing to say, that Nigerians are going through an Islamic problem. Cliche meaning a lot of countries are going through that.
purposely forgetting to put out there is that it's not just Boko Haram, it's also the Fulani militants. Not a lot of people know about the Fulani militants.
So with the Fulanis, let's break down Nigeria into percentages. 30% of Nigeria are Fulanis, which are Muslims, and then 15% are Yoruba. Out of that 15% that are Yoruba, I would say another 50% of them are Muslims and another 50% of them are Christians. So we have Fulanis, the Yorubas that are 15%, and then the Igbos that are also another 15%. So we have 30, 15, that's 60%. The other 40% is just a lot of different tribes. Ethiopia has 100 different tribes, and Congo, they have a lot of different tribes. But the main tribes in Nigeria are Fulanis, Yoruba, and Igbos. 30% Fulanis, 15% Igbos, and 50% Yorubas. And then the other 40% is minor other little cultures and groups, etc.
Islamists are also the ones who are generally targeting the Christian Nigerians, especially in the Plateau Belt. And I've had several Nigerian Christians come on and speak about this. In fact, I have seen videos where you have the Fulani militants, on their motorcycles with machetes. They're driving through various towns, and you have the Nigerian military who's supposed to prevent them from going. They're getting orders to stand down and allow the Fulani militants to go through. Again, Pierce, the loss of life is horrible. But as you can tell from the minister, he's avoiding questions. He's avoiding eye contact. Instead of actually answering the questions, he's focusing more on trying to attack
No
me
one
and trying
attacked
to,
you.
go after
You're
me because I'm not as
victim.
familiar with the
Politics. You're gonna get that. They're gonna play victim games. I remember him acting like he's a victim. He's like, I'm a victim. The foreign minister. He's like, I'm a victim. I had someone, one of my thing's husbands, or one of my thing's family. He got killed. So I'm a victim. Now she's playing a victim.
Constitution. I don't need to be familiar with the Constitution of Nigeria to understand that over 50,000 Christians have been murdered since 2009. I don't have to be familiar with the Constitution of Nigeria to know that when someone yells Allahu Akbar before they massacre 200
She's a Muslim
Christians,
from Iran. Ask her simple questions. What does Allah Akbar mean? She's gonna say it means praise be God, praise be Allah. Da da da. My point to that is you can't just say because people are saying that, therefore they're extremists. You can't say that.
in Christian churches, that's not just banditry, that's jihad. And I think the reason that the foreign minister does not want to admit this is because they're somehow complicit in this. And, he is purposely saying that he is willfully ignorant, because how could the Nigerian government not know if those people who have been murdered are Christian or Muslim? The reason that he's avoiding saying that is because if they actually put out formal numbers about the numbers of Christians targeted and murdered, then they will have to admit that there is a genocide. They don't want to admit that there's a genocide, but that's exactly what's happening. And I'm glad President Trump and others are calling it out.
Foreign Minister, finally, your response to that.
Fuck you, bitch.
Well, like I said, the lady and people like her trade in starting wars in faraway places where they...
What? He should have just said, thank you for bringing awareness to my country. Instead, you're trying to say, like, yo, there is no war in my country. Stop chatting shit about there's a war in my country and there's a genocide. As the foreign minister, I'll be like, the people of Nigeria are all extremely important, and any help towards saving lives in my country is welcome. End of story. Instead, he's going to play the victim game. Why?
They have no contacts, they have no understanding of, and they can do that from their armchairs from a safe distance. It's a real life situation this lady would not know the difference between a Fulani man, a Tiv man, an Igbo man, if they stood in front of her. But you can see clearly overnight, because it pays, she's probably making money out of it. She
Actually, I'm
is
getting
out there
$0 for this.
trying to
I'm getting
start a
paid
war.
zero.
That's what she does.
I'm
Excuse me,
getting
I did
paid
not
zero for
interrupt
this.
you.
I have
I
been
did not
speaking out
interrupt.
against human rights
I did not
violations.
interrupt
Listen,
you
Pierce, as
when
you
you
can
were
tell,
talking,
he's
but
not able
clearly
to
you
actually
can't stand the
answer
truth.
anything that I'm
And
saying.
as many
All he does
times
is
as
just
I would
attack
repeat
me
the
and attack
figures,
my credibility.
as many
So I
times
think
as I
this
would
shows the viewers
repeat the
exactly where the
figures,
Nigerian
she
government
is going
stands.
to keep on insisting that she has not heard the figures. So that's what she's trying to do.
If I was him, I would say I completely understand that I said 100 people died, and the reports are 100,000 people died. If I was him, I would say I understand that the numbers are crazy. You know, the world is saying 100,000 Nigerian Christians have died, and he's saying it's 102. If I was him, I would say I completely understand that the numbers are not adding up at all. Instead, he's playing victim.
Start a war. They want to break up Nigeria the same way they broke up Sudan, and now they've run away. She's not talking about Sudan anymore. She's not talking about South Sudan.
I actually
I
have
bet
talked
she was
about
one of those
Sudan
that
in
was
other
agitating
episodes as well.
for Sudan to be dismembered. This is what they do. This is what they do. What they try to do to Africa. Nigeria is.
You see what he's saying, bro? We're talking about killings in Nigeria. Why are you acting like a victim? Why? I honestly, if anyone could tell me why this guy is acting like a victim, please explain, bro. Because whether he likes it or not, people in Nigeria are dying, and it's his job to protect the people of Nigeria that are dying. He's playing victim. He hasn't asked for help. He hasn't asked for no support. He hasn't said, "Yo, we've tried to do this, and it hasn't worked." He hasn't said anything. God, Nigeria, my country, please, man.
The largest country on the African continent. It is the
Largest? No, it's not the largest. It's the most populated. Algeria is the largest in Africa.
largest. This is what they do. What they try to do to Africa. Nigeria is the largest country on the African continent. It is the largest shock absorber to the African continent in terms of admitting migrants, in terms of freedom of religion. It's Africa's largest democracy. But people like you, who don't really care about freedoms, about the freedoms of either Christians or Muslims or Africans, will continue to agitate for the breakup of Nigeria, for war, the same way that it's happening in South.
So I would ask him, there is no war in Nigeria. And he said, no, well, there is something like a war. There's people, Muslims pointing guns this way, there's Christians pointing guns this way. That sounds like a war to me. A genocide, that could be a bit too much, but there is a war going on in Nigeria. He's trying to act like there is no war in Nigeria, and it's people like you that are trying to divide us and destroy us, but there is a war. He has not once stated his concern for Nigeria, that there is actually people dying, pointing guns. Yes, that is really happening. There's people in regions in Nigeria where they're pointing guns at each other. He hasn't ever like said anything remotely similar to that ever.
Sudan, and you've kept mum,
You know,
because you've moved on
the reason
to
that
your
I
next
know, the
project.
reason
And
that I know that you are working with the
is what
Islamic
you're
Republic of
concerned
Iran
about.
is because the
You
Islamic
don't care
Republic.
about.
Remember, I said I didn't really fuck with her because I just thought she didn't know what she was talking about, but I was wrong. You know, what she just said was very important. But then this obviously foreign minister is fucking it up. But let's see if we can hear what she said.
Happening in South Sudan, and you've kept mum, because you've moved on
The reason
to
that
your
I
next
know, the
project.
reason
And
that I know that you are working with the
is what
Islamic
you're
Republic of
concerned
Iran
about.
is because the
You
Islamic
don't care
Republic
about the loss
puts
of
out the
life.
same narrative
You
about
probably don't even care.
balkanization.
You
That
probably don't care.
balkanization narrative is
For all I
something
know,
that
you
the
probably
Islamists
don't even care
constantly use.
Let's
that
be
Africans.
professional. Come on, man. Let's be professional. Once again, I'll always blame a man. And just keep quiet and let her talk. And just ask her, are you done? Remember what you're going to say. And just say to her, are you done? There's no point, like, you're literally talking while a woman is talking. Why would you do
Are
that?
losing their lives. To you, it's just another black country to be broken up. You don't care who
Your
dies,
hands
whether
are the
they're
one that's
Christian
covered
or
in
Muslim.
blood, not mine.
But we've seen you
Not mine.
many
I'm not
times.
denying the
And
Christian
guess
genocide,
what?
but you are.
It's not
Shame
going to
on you.
happen to
Shame
Nigeria.
on you.
Move on to your next project. Move on to your next, your disgrace. Your disgrace to the Canadian nation. I'm shocked that you say that you actually practice as a politician in Canada. Move on to the next episode. Leave us alone.
See, I was waiting for that. Leave us alone. There's a war in your country and we're trying to help and put awareness. You just said to leave you alone. Do you want help or not? If I was him, yeah, we need help. This guy saying, leave us alone, we will sort it out. You will sort out what? Once again, my friend, you do come across as a Muslim. I can't tell. I'm looking around the room to see anything remotely to identify you as either a Christian or a Muslim, to see what side you reside on. But it's easy to see what side you reside on when the president is a Muslim and the vice president is a Muslim and you work for them. So figure that out.
Well, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you both very much indeed for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Piers.
Thank you.
Today's show is sponsored by OneSkin, which can help all
You're out.
skin with 15% after you pay on years. Your IP basic plan is and some of the victims of the many people a service. That's expressvpn.com/peers. Well, joining us now is the Reverend Zeke Dachimo. Many people saw his passionate speech beside his shallow grave, some of the victims of this persecution, including President Donald Trump. Well, welcome to you, Reverend. It's good to talk to you. Your words clearly had an impact on President Trump. What do you believe is the reality about the situation in Nigeria with regard to the persecution of Christians?
The word of Trump towards Nigeria is but marvelous, as is comparable to what the Bible says. Israel was under persecution in Egypt. When there comes...
You know, the reason I'm moving like this is like we're talking about Nigeria and you've gone to another region. We're talking about Nigeria and you've stated the Bible and what the Bible has to say with the conflicts of Nigeria. Let's keep it to Nigeria solely. He's brought up the Bible. What has the Bible got to do with what's going on in Nigeria? Let's listen.
Another Pharaoh that did not know Joseph. The Israelites went into deep crisis. Their labor was double. It was double. To the stage, God allowed this thing to happen to the state that they have to cry. When they cry out, Exodus chapter 3, verse 7 came up. God decided to say, it is time, let us go down. I've heard the cry of my people, and let us show concern. Depends on different interpretation.
I'm going to summarize this because, you know, the thing with Nigerians is the Christians are heavily Christians and the Muslims are heavily Muslims. What I mean by that is the Christians believe that the Christians in Nigeria believe God is going to save them. They should not save themselves. This guy knows so much about the Bible, but when it comes to him putting in work, construction or doing anything remotely to the people, he doesn't. His job is just to just read the Bible, reset it back to the people and give them hope without Nigerians working. That's why I don't really want to go into too much details because I know what Nigerians is like. They're going to just say, God will do everything for you. You don't need to go to work. God will give you the money. That's how they move in Nigeria, I'm telling you. So this is why this guy, I'm not really going to try to hear what he's going to say.
But one version says, let us show concern. I have concern for my people in Egypt. I've heard their cry. Let me go down and deliver them from the Egyptian, from slavery. It is same thing with us in... 70 times. Imagine some of the graves are 501 people killed in one night in Dogonahawa, village named Gemburu. The Nigerian government downplayed that one because the Islamic are controlling the government.
So the Nigerian government, if I may just jump in there, the Nigerian government has vehemently denied there is a genocide of Christians in Nigeria. Further, they say a lot of Muslims have also been killed by the likes of Boko Haram for being too moderate, and that therefore the issue of Islamists killing people is not restricted just to Christians, but also to moderate Muslims. What do you say to that?
So
Both
let me
people are
give you the
dying.
background of what happened. This is the background with initial fact finding. They created Boko Haram by many that are in hierarchy of the government to remove Goodluck, who is a Christian. This is what happened. They steered them. They caused riot every village. And the people run away, they were relocated. And their target is to kill the Christian. Because Goodluck is a Christian. That's why
Goodluck Jonathan. Says so, a lot of Nigerians, we basically say the last good president was a guy called Goodluck Jonathan, and Goodluck Jonathan was a Christian. Now we have a Muslim president. So when Goodluck Jonathan was around, he was Christian fighting against the Muslims. Now, basically, what people think is that now that Goodluck's gone and he was using the Christians to fight against the extremists. Now that it's a Muslim president being President Tinubu, he's trying to push the Muslims ideology into Nigerians. That's basically what he said.
Blood is not worthy for other people to die. He voluntarily and submit and accept result even before it was finished counting.
Anyways, guys, this is the Piers Morgan. I do fuck with Piers Morgan quite a bit. So you guys go check it out and listen to the rest of it, because I don't really want to hear what this guy's going to say, because it's just not what I'm going to do. But yeah, guys, give me a like, comment, share, all of that. Peace.